listen, never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
We know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Getting on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
This is the time where I go, there's no human being I would rather talk to than XXXXXXX. But there's always exceptions. I don't know if I've ever said this to Evan Drellich, that there's no human being I'd rather talk to than Evan Drellich. In all the years that we've done radio and podcasts and everything else. But you know what, Evan? I'm turning over a new leaf. There is no human being right now, despite all your flaws, despite you being late for this podcast, despite you always constantly looking over my shoulder to talk to someone better when we're engaging in conversation, despite all of it, there is no human being I'd rather talk to than Evan Drellich right now.
Lineups out.
Do you get residuals every time that we play lineups out? You should.
I wish there should be more of my drops. Obviously.
No, that's the only one we still use. In case people don't know, Evan and I, because this is a national big time podcast, Evan.
I'm sure many listeners, many viewers,
many leather bound books, and we did a radio show together. And it was the only show maybe in the history certainly of the station we did it for EEI, where they literally had to spend more money to make sure that to bring somebody else in to make sure we didn't argue with each other, or at least stepped in between each other. So I took that as a compliment, because I don't think there's enough of that anymore. I think it's a lot of you talk, I talk, you talk, you talk, instead of what we did, which is just scream at each other. So
we had a great show. And if the bosses didn't realize that, well, none of them are in place anymore.
And of course, a lot of times when we were doing the show, the lineup would come out during the show, and you got very excited. All of a sudden it's like squirrel.
Yeah. We had a bit, and it was a great time. I love that Sunday morning show. Up on 3 hours sleep at Fenway on a Sunday morning. It's kind of similar, right? It's 9 a.m. my time. It's a holiday morning here.
Nobody knows that as you're listening. It's hot. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Tell me how radio works. Thank you.
I let you know that today I am turning, like I said, I'm letting you have a forum. You don't have enough of a forum. You have to get your word out there. You have to. I would usually, what do I usually say about your brand?
What do you say about my brand, Rob? I need exposure bucks? That's what you tell everybody.
I usually say your brand has never been hotter. I feel like it can be hotter in this case. And that's why you're on the podcast right now. You're welcome.
Thanks for your help. Yep.
Yeah. Wipe those sleepies out of your eyes. I mean, your eyes are literally at half mast.
Hey, I showered. Come on. We're doing great here.
All right. How do you feel, Evan? How do you feel about things? How do you feel because you serve a purpose for me in a couple different ways. Number one, you always bring a smile to my face, even when I try not to. Number two, you're wildly entertaining to me in ways that people have no idea. And number three, you are actually interested in a lot of stuff which nobody else wants to be interested in, but is important. I will say this, but it's important because every time anyone mentions the stuff that you cover, they run away and say, earmuffs, I don't want to hear about it. And you run to it. Right? Am I wrong?
No, you're right. I'm getting it's maybe that's why my eyes are a little at some point it makes you a little sleepy dealing with all the stuff that nobody else wants to deal with, but you're right. That's right.
Hold on. Oh, that's a good cut. That's a good meme right there. Good gif. All right. So, but now we're I saw you at the World Series, and Tony Clark talked, Rob Manfred talked. That was the only reason you were there. That and the poutine, correct?
That's mostly, yes. I go to the World Series, to be a great teammate, help run quotes for all the other many athletic reporters there. But yeah, because Tony Clark and Rob Manfred typically talk at the World Series. That's right.
And also to latch your wagon to me, saying to all the MLBPA people, hey, if you want a baseballs and boring sticker, I know a guy. And in exchange for baseball and some boring stickers, you will give me information next time I need it. I mean, let's be honest.
I want to be clear. I gave them to both sides.
You did?
Oh, sure, yeah. I ran into the MLB. There was somebody, I won't name who. There was somebody on the on one of the sides who said, I don't want to take it. I appreciate the sentiment, but in PR, apparently you don't acknowledge kind of the negative, and to say it isn't boring is
really
kind of. Yeah, somebody didn't want, but they weren't mad. But I went to both sides with it. Everybody got it.
It was, which side was it? MLBPA.
I can't.
Right, Ryan was Stark. So I was after game 2 of the World Series. They have, you and I have both partaken in the post game parties at World Series, right? So I didn't even know there was one until after game 2. It went out to center field, and lo and behold, there's the Seafood Tower. So I'm in line for the Seafood Tower, and this nice lady was like, "Oh, you're the guy with the stickers."
See, your brand has never
worked
been
for the MLBPA, who told me that you were telling everyone you can get stickers. I know a guy.
Because let's be clear, you came on the field, tried to put stickers on me. Without me noticing.
No. First of all,
and then handed me stickers to give out to people. So I'm talking to MLB. I'm talking to the MLBPA, and I gave them stickers as a bit. Like, why not? Here, have the sticker.
I succeeded in putting the sticker on you. You did. In fairness to you, you did wear it around all of game 1.
I did. This is what I get for trying to support your cause.
No, it's not. It's more of your brand, man. It's like I'm trying to build you up. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Such a mentor.
We're not going to get into how you owe everything to me, but that's another story. That's another podcast. All right. So as we sit here, do you feel it, Evan? Do you feel it? Do you feel like the juices are flowing where you're basically saying, can we just fast forward this baseball season and get to the meat and potatoes, which is, are we going to have a lockout? Can you feel it?
Oh, honey, it's not, are we going to have a lockout? There's obviously going to be an off-season lockout coming in December again. The part I want to fast forward to is March of 2027, because nothing is going to get real. We saw it last time until games are really on the line. Nobody's going to move to their, not final positions necessarily, but you're not going to see anything close to the true cards until it's crunch time, and that's the state of labor in baseball today. The Kyle Tucker signing only inflames those into salary cap calls, and I'm dreading it a little bit because it's going to be a little bit. Sure, it's because
you have to work. You actually have to write stuff.
That's right. The act.
No, but in all honesty, Evan. In all honesty, once that time when that comes, like the lockout comes, okay, I'll take your word for it. It's not if, it's just, it's not even when. It's just going to happen. You have to you become the Athletics' most important person.
I disagree with that in the sense that one of the truly great things about being at the Athletic is the size of the team. Right? I work closely. Ken Rosenthal will hear things. Our other national writers will hear. Our beat writers will hear things. Right? It might end up getting funneled to me, but it is very much a group effort here and there's plenty of times where something ends up with somebody else's byline, but it's because somebody else.
Yeah, I get that. But the point is that nobody enjoys writing it more than you. These people who are finding out information and siphoning information to you, they don't want to write it. Like, let's be honest. They want to write about the other stuff.
Yeah, I've one of the last stories I did in Boston, Rob, for a regional sports network that shall not be named, was a large look at the players' union and kind of their failings or trappings at the time.
And you know what? That's why you were fired.
Yeah, you might be right.
It was too easy.
And look, I've spent the last 6 years focusing on the off the field, and this goes back to I'm sure you remember, Rob. I was a beat writer covering the Houston Astros, and everything they were doing was tailored to the collective bargaining agreement in kind of really specific ways. And I would have been a negligent beat writer if I wasn't paying attention to CBA. So, yeah, I have been more moved by the levers of power. That's my preferred phrase for all this in the game than I think most people. The sport is so random. It's not that I don't enjoy it and I don't see truth in it, but it's easier for me to find objective truths in the off the field stuff than on the field. I don't know. Were the Dodgers really better than the Blue Jays last year? It's a random game, and I'll tell you what, everything I cover isn't exactly random. There's a lot of intent and crazy personalities, but interesting, right? Like they're almost caricatures, some of these people.
Well, first off, you complained behind the scenes. You complained that you weren't getting paid to do this podcast before the podcast. And I felt, I don't feel bad, but as compensation, I am going to make you a T-shirt that says "Levers of Power" that you can wear around.
I only complained after you complained. This is how the media works. They cherry pick quotes. I only complained when you yelled at me for saying, "Can we do this 15 minutes later than you originally asked on a holiday?"
You know what? The Chilean miners complained about the same thing as they were sticking the swab through the ground. All right. So through all why you're interested in that stuff, fine. How does this feel different than last time? I guess that's like the nuts and bolts. Do you remember how it felt leading in at this point last time? How does it feel different? And should we be more worried that there is going to be games cut into, because a lot of people will say, "Oh, it's just going to be the same thing as last time"?
It's different for a couple of reasons. One, everybody just lived through it, and the last time we hadn't had anything like it in 25 years. It'd been the 94-95 strike was the last time you had any sort of lockout or strike period in baseball. So everybody's a little bit familiar with the program, I think, at this point. Last time it was the players who were the aggressors, for really 2 CBA cycles, at least a full one, 5 years each time. The players have been angry. They were angry about service time manipulation. There was a whole list of issues that the players wanted to be fixed. And by the way, had been angry for years. And in the end, still nobody actually missed games, which I do think is a notable point here. But those are kind of the two major differences: is who's the aggressor and who's kind of more playing defense. The players union will say, of course we want things. We want to get more money to young players. They want to raise the CBT, the luxury tax levels, and all that kind of things that you would always assume. But they were banging a war drum last time, and the people banging the war drum now are the owners. The salary cap conversation and media rights, it's kind of different topically. It all boils down to money, Rob. Everything I write about, and it gets it can be a little boring sometimes in the sense that it really is all about money. You could talk about competitive balance, all this stuff. It all circles back to money, particularly in a labor negotiation. It's economics. And I was an English major, so what the hell do I know? But the difference is the topics that are going to be being pushed here. Some of it will be the same as before, but do the owners stick to a salary cap proposal? I think everybody expects they're going to make one. You can make one in April or May when these negotiations start. The CBA expires December, Rob. The talks are going to start within 3 or 4 months here. They can make that proposal. How long do they stay to it? Do they stay to it until November? Do they stay to it until March? Do they stay to it until the players cave and give in to what they want? And how long does that take, if so? So it's a different conversation, but kind of the same structure as last time.
When you saw the Kyle, I don't know if you know this because you aren't following it, Kyle Tucker signing with the Dodgers.
And everyone's brother, Preston Tucker. Did you know that? He had a brother.
You what?
He had a brother. Kyle Tucker had a brother who played for the Astros. And still has a brother.
Yeah. Okay. Congratulations to the Tucker family.
That's right.
But a lot of people, their guttural reaction to that was Dodgers are ruining it for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the question I would have for you is there anything that we should like when people say that, is that a thing? Or is it like just no, the Dodgers are going to be dodgering and they have been for a while. That doesn't change any narratives. The salary, the cap is the cap. This has no effect of anything. Or is this pushing things further down the road of the owners saying this is unfair?
I think it could narratively push things. It's not as though people weren't complaining about the Dodgers previously. There's just a lot of debates you can have on the way to this conversation. What is the state of competitive balance in baseball? Can teams who aren't the Dodgers compete reasonably, fairly? How does that compare to other sports leagues? There's arguments on both sides for that. The league likes to point out that there hasn't been a bottom 15 market team to win a World Series since the Royals in 2015. That's not great for parity. The union points out that since 2000, in the four major men's professional sports, baseball's had more individual winners than any of the other sports. So I think 16 is the number. Then you get to a debate about, well, okay, if you agree that there's a problem, and I'm not saying I necessarily do, but if that's the position you take, then, well, what is the solution? Does the salary cap fix it? And then the big question becomes, well, where are you setting the floor? Where are you setting the cap itself? The Dodgers, whatever you set the cap at, will spend toward the cap. The Pirates will spend toward the bottom of that. And so how many more playoff appearances do you get for those small market teams, the Rays, the Marlins, et cetera, in this new system? Does it actually fix the thing that you have just argued is broken? And it's like three different arguments to get to this point. I think there is an effort that both sides, the players and the owners, are going to undertake to convince the public of what is right and what is good for baseball. At the end of the day, it matters somewhat what the public thinks, but like the bottom line is who's willing to miss time for their positions, if indeed the cap proposal stays on the table. And I think in an industry that next year is going to be probably about $13 billion or close to it, the rational incentives don't line up for a major work stoppage. And so the question becomes, could the owners convince the players to take a cap without a major work stoppage? And if not, are the owners willing to miss a year? These negotiations are going to get really loud. You're going to hear everybody
louder
saying,
than before, louder than last time.
I think so. And remember, it did get loud last time. There was a point where the commissioner said we're canceling regular season games, and then they found a way to play them all. They found a way to play the full 162. But it's all leverage building, and everybody's going to talk really tough. And this is why I said at the start, though, it comes down to March. It's not going to matter until games are on the line. It just doesn't. In this setup, with this league and this union leadership, other leagues sometimes get deals done sooner. That's not baseball right now. I don't know if it will be anytime in the near future. So, yes, you're going to hear everything. This is going to be Armageddon, and that's kind of everybody's job, is to say we're tough. We're not going to back down to the other side. But the amount of money at stake and the damage you would do to the sport with any sort of real work stoppage, it's so obviously a bad idea when there is so much money coming into the sport that it seems to me likely that they'll find some way to play a full schedule. It'll just be really ugly to get there. That's my guess. But if the owners decide we want our franchise values to go up and we're going to do whatever it takes to get there, well, Rob, we're gonna, we'll have a lot of time to talk labor and men's clothing stores in Boston coming in 27.
All right, so you adequately have articulated how it's different because the one aggressor is now the guy fending off, and the guy fending off is now the aggressor.
Yeah.
But what I would ask you is that, so you talk to these people, you talk to both sides, the tone of them, and you're right. I mean, I remember, Evan, you were probably at that gate in Jupiter, like in March. Remember that? It was like a week before they settled.
I try not to.
The end of the earth, right? It was literally the end of we're not having a season. And then a week later they figure it out.
Right.
But is one side talking tougher than they had been last time around? Because as I said, like, you have heard on the record, off the record, everything, how these guys, what the tone is for these same people of just a few years ago.
Yeah, I think kind of inherently, because the owners are more the aggressors here, they are talking tougher than they did before. And you do hear people saying, if the players are really faced with missing games, that maybe they will cave, and that belief does exist. There's so many politics that go into this. The management side, the ownership side in baseball, you need 75% to ratify a new CBA. So if there's a group of 8 owners who get together and say, we want a cap, well, that's a big political problem for Rob Manfred. And the other thing that looms behind all of this is the sports TV rights. You're seeing these RSNs, particularly in the smaller markets, really struggle. The money that goes to the teams from the RSNs is dipping. On the other hand, you've got these big streaming companies that want to scoop up and buy everything. And so what MLB wants to do, there's 2 sets of rights in baseball, the national rights and the local rights. The national rights are what gives you the game of the week on Sunday nights on now NBC, used to be on ESPN. The local rights are what the Red Sox sell to NESN, basically sell to themselves. But that, two branches there. What come 2028, baseball's national deals are up. They run through 28, so there's new deals starting 29. Manfred would like to be able to sell those local rights to big streaming companies. You put a bunch of them together, and now you got Netflix not only bidding on the game of the week, well, now they're bidding on local rights for however many teams are able to get all those rights together. The key thing here is that the teams control those rights right now. One thing he'd like to do is take control of that, have the league office use that. Well, then what? If you're changing this media rights system, are you changing how the teams share that money? Guess what? Teams like the Red Sox make a lot of money on TV. They're not going to want to share that with the poor little Miami Marlins and Tampa Bay Rays, not without a give and take there. So even before you get to this big conflict with the players, there's so much internally that the owners got to figure out about what they want to do and sweeping their own front porch. They can come up with a plan that they like, and then you got to deal with the players. Because revenue sharing in baseball, how owners share money between themselves, is collectively bargained. You have to deal with the players' union on it. So, there's a lot that underlies the cap, and where the cap kind of ties into that media side of it is it changes revenue sharing fundamentally in baseball. And it's also the kind of thing that if you wanted to make a big change in media rights, and it's going to piss off some clubs and some others will be okay with it, well, it can be a unifier, because clubs have always wanted a salary cap. And so you could dangle the salary cap to people, say, okay, well, we'll make this big media rights change, but and you get a cap, and then everybody can sign on to it, and then you got to beat down the players. So there's a lot to it besides, somebody newly being aggressive here.
Along those lines, where do you think Zach Gallen's going to sign? No, I'm just kidding.
Next question.
Hold on, I got to take half my 5-hour energy after that diatribe about. It's very informative.
Doctor about that stuff.
That's You're on the trolley. You're part of the club, right?
Drinking seltzer.
yeah.
Seltzer
It's also 9:00 in the morning. You just woke up. Wait till 10 hours from now. You'll be like pounding Red Bulls.
I'm a tea drinker these days. I like
tea. Look at you.
The coffee was making me too anxious, so I drink like hot.
I thought you
tea.
had a glow about you.
Yeah,
Along the lines of the TV thing, the Dodgers. After the Dodgers thing happened, some people say, after the Frank McCourt dealings, they had this arrangement. The Dodgers have this unfair advantage of TV money. What do you know about that? Anything? Because I want to clear that up.
That was I want to clear it up too, and I'm gonna have to pass on it at the moment because I need to dig into that. That was some Twitter chatter around that. I don't doubt it being correct, but it honestly is something I have not spent time on, but I'm going to spend time on in the coming days here. So can I come back next week and take a rain check on
Yeah,
that?
sure. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna be 15 minutes late again.
20 minutes for you.
All right, all right. Well, so all right. So when you talk about all this stuff, the owners, like you mentioned, the 8 owners, right? Who are there owners who are spearheading this? Are there owners who are getting the Rudy on the stool in the middle of the clubhouse? Gather around me, guys. This is how we got to do things. Even maybe it's the same people that it was last time. Who are the most powerful owners in this whole deal?
Well, to some degree, it's a little bit TBD in the sense that you have new owners coming in who this is going to be their first go around. You know, the David Rubensteins, um, Steve Cohen. It's kind of a changing group, and so what are the power dynamics there? You know, does somebody kind of newly emerge? The head of the labor committee is still Dick Monfort of the Rockies. He's somebody who has long wanted a cap. Ray Davis of the Rangers wants a cap. There's kind of a smaller. It's unfair to say Artie Moreno's in a smaller market group, but Artie Moreno, Castellini in Cincinnati. There's a group that is consistently kind of a thorn in the commissioner's side. I think is how to look at it, and to some degree, if you're Rob Manfred, you got to demonstrate to these guys who do want a cap a good faith effort to get it. And then the question is if it really does seem that the players are entrenched, if the league hasn't been able to flip player sentiment on this, can they pivot? Do they pivot? And I would think logically they would, but they're also never going to telegraph that. You're never going to make a proposal for a cap in the middle of 2026 and then say, but we'll come off of that later. And so it's to go back levers of power. It's all kind of leverage building on both sides for a while here. I was looking back through what happened last time. The CBT money the league didn't start offering big raises in the luxury tax dollars until February. I mean, it just things don't move, but there's so much yelling and bluster before it. And I think the trick for people kind of in those early months this season, in the off season, once the lockout starts, is going to just be kind of trying to educate yourselves. And I'm going to try to educate myself and readers on, okay, how would these proposals work? How do cap systems work? What are the downsides? What are the upsides? And you want to try to follow the substance, the tactical positions. I don't want to say they're a distraction, but they kind of are.
No, but I think to your point is like we should look back at a few years ago.
Yeah.
And we should, and this is, I'm giving you this one for free, that you should write that story. You should basically say this exact thing was said at this time, this exact thing was said at this time, this exact thing was said at this time, because everyone's going to freak out. The only good thing to come out of this is we're going to have the same thing about the much desired deadline for off-season moves, like informal deadline for off-season moves. That was awesome. That was the best. Like when you actually got stuff done, and then December 1st.
That's a league position, Rob. The league wants the free agency
I know, but
deadline.
that's not
the
happening.
Union does not.
We know that that's not happening. All I'm saying is it happened because of the lockout, and it was awesome. We all want this. Evan, when back in a different world that you lived in, when you were covering the day-to-day stuff, you remember, it was done
sure.
by Christmas.
Listen, I don't know if it's done by Christmas, but I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that if there was a free agency signing deadline, it would create something of a frenzy. And also the other point exists that has some validity is there is a player worry that they would be forced into lesser contracts. If you take that concern away and it's a simple, would this make it exciting? Of course it would make it exciting. People love deadlines, except me meeting yours to come on the program. But otherwise, yeah. But like I said earlier, it all comes back to money. There's money attached to it. The way the league had proposed the free agency signing deadline is it's a multi-year deadline. So if you don't accept a multi-year deal by whatever date, well, then you only take 1 year deal. So if you're a good player and you're sitting there and going, I don't like these multi-year deals. Well, you're stuck. Then you got to take the multi-year deal that's on the table, or all you get is a 1 year deal, and that's the proposition the players don't like. They think they're going to get screwed if they take a deadline.
Well, it's good for baseball. Going back to the Dodgers, Andrew Friedman had got up in front of everybody the other day, and they constantly have to answer this whole thing about we're buying baseball and we're ruining whatever it is. But I do think this, Evan, and you tell me if you don't agree or don't agree. The Dodgers know what they're doing in this sense. And I think that more teams, more of these rich owners can actually do this same sort of thing with or without this TV money, which is you spend money to make money. The Dodgers aren't doing this unless it's good for business. Like, that's what we have to come back to. Andrew Friedman talks about the deferred money and reinvesting it and all this stuff. The Dodgers, it wouldn't be doing this unless it's good for business. It is good for business. Now, I know that not every team and owner can do this, but that's one that none of the owners will talk about because nobody else wants to do it because it's complicated and complex, and it took the Dodgers a while to get to that point. But tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, you remember when the Red Sox were the Red Sox? Remember when the Yankees were the Yankees? Those days are gone.
Winning a World Series is good for business. Spoiler alert.
Right. And I think well, let me read you what the commissioner said. This is the most recent quote that I believe the commissioner has given publicly on the Dodgers. This was to WFAN.
Yes, he was FAN, Odyssey Station.
Right, but he had been. I mean, he had been asked literally, days before this Tucker signing. He says, "I admire what the Dodger organization has done on both sides of the house. They've done a phenomenal job on the revenue side, and they've made great baseball decisions. Getting those two together is harder than you think, and everything they've done is completely within the rules. And a large market like the Dodgers does drive your business." He then says, "Yes, I do get concerned. We try to listen to our fans. We hear in a lot of markets. We look at the resources they have compared to the resources that are available in our market," talking about the small market sentiment. "We don't feel like it's quite a fair shake." There's a lot here. If you're basically asking me what is the legitimacy of the argument that the Dodgers are ruining baseball, one, the number of conversations that we collectively, fans, media, when the Dodgers do something, just like we used to when the Yankees do something, is good for baseball. Baseball is a sport that does well with villains. In this, and I skipped over it, the commissioner said, baseball is a very random sport. It is a very random sport. You get into the playoffs, you have a chance to win. And I think the idea that the Dodgers are precluding other teams from having a chance to get in the playoffs is wrong. What I do think is real that would change in a cap system is that the smallest market teams are never going to sign the truly biggest name free agents. You're never going to get Shohei Ohtani going to the Kansas City Royals. In a cap system, you might be able to. But even if you have fans who are deflated in December, Pirates fans going, man, we can't keep up with the Dodgers. The reality of baseball is that once the season starts, any team in any market can keep up. Right? I bet you right now, $10, the Dodgers don't win the World Series next year, for the simple reason that it is highly unlikely for a team to three-peat. It's just it could happen, but it's not a sport where these things are easily guaranteed. It's easier in football, right? The difference between the haves and the have-nots feels greater in the other sport. The Dodgers, I think the amount of money and attention they bring in for baseball, it's hard to kind of say they're ruining baseball single-handedly. And the union would say there are ways to incentivize teams to behave differently, to spend more without a cap, right? The player argument is you can have some of the benefits of a cap floor system without moving to it. And it's all money at the end of the day, right? Owners have wanted a cap for decades. Why do they want a cap? It is good for their economics. It could bring some benefits to the sport, but it's you can't really divorce the money from all this.
When you go through this season, is it going to be? I know that you love the great game of baseball every time a lineup comes out, but this, like, you must be digging in a little bit. Like, what are you doing? You going to spring training? What are you doing?
Well, there's a Rob Manfred press conference I'm going to go to after the owners' meetings. That's coming up in February.
So what I'm saying that everything you're doing is basically like for this year, you're just like, oh yeah, just tell me when the World Series is over, like pretty much.
Well, I'm not, well, but there's so like every. Here's the thing: when you're asking me these questions about the Dodgers, there's so much to get to, right? It's trying to make sure I get through my checklist of the different.
No, I'm saying like I'm telling you.
So this year, the thing to do is to try to dig into.
Yeah, don't get defensive about it. I'm not saying like you don't love baseball, sort of.
Yeah, look. When the commissioner's office stands there and says, when Rob Manfred says this is a perception problem that fans have, that's a very interesting phrasing, right? You're not saying it is definitively a problem that teams can't compete. It is a perception issue that fans have that teams can't compete. What an interesting phrasing. He's kind of avoiding the merit of the underlying argument there. And so there's a lot to sort through coming up.
Do you have a good relationship with Manfred?
We haven't gone golfing. He likes to golf. I don't golf. I think we have a respectful, cordial relationship. I think there are moments when he's not liked me, and I think there are moments when he's probably thought I'm a decent reporter, and I think that's just my speculation. I've sat and listened to him more than anybody in the media, maybe outside of Ron Blum, who is the Associated Press longtime beat, kind of baseball commissioner's office beat writer in New York.
I gave Manfred a sticker.
I'm sure he loved it.
You know what his response was?
We should hire. Here's $500,000. Please join the commissioner's office.
I mean, maybe. I would never leave the podcast for any amount of money. You know that. He said, I love that book. So he said.
The Joe Kelly book?
Yeah, he said, I love that book. If I do a sequel, I'm going to say, I love that book, said Rob Manfred. So there you go. Tom Hanks and Rob Manfred. Love the book.
You don't forget Evan Drellich as well. Big fan.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, you poured through it. All right. Well, you made up for being 20 minutes late. And you gave me a great T-shirt idea. Levers of Power.
What else is going to go on? Just going to be the script? Are you going to get
actually, if I think this is someone should do an animation of you, like a cartoon, the Evan Drellich cartoon.
Well, that's been done. I can send you. When I left the Houston Chronicle, there was a great cartoonist who would do a sketch of everybody's.
Not a sketch.
Cartoonize you.
No, not a sketch. Like an actual cartoon. Like it's called Levers of Power, and you're like, remember you used to cover the Rays games where Joe Madden. You never saw that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, they had for a couple of years there. They had action figures, Joe Madden, Carl Crawford, all these people, and they made them into cartoon characters like superheroes. You could be a superhero. Levers of Power with Evan Drellich.
That's what most sports writers do. We turn these people into superheroes, right? That's what I should be
doing. That's what I'm turning to the table.
A superhero.
That's what I'm saying. It's come back to making your brand hot as ever. All right. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Goodbye, Rob.